Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60. Hello and welcome to your favorite Thursday afternoon show, Soccer in 60. It's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and happy hour is back in session, and we got a great show for you. Of course, we're going to cover all the teams mentioned in the intro, and we also get to sit down for a quick interview with the legendary broadcaster, JP Dellacamera. But before we get cracking, allow ourselves to introduce ourselves. My name is Christian Philemon, the platinum-haired flamingo, also known as Philly. Joining me this time in the role of a host, as Tiki Tim is some 30,000 feet above us as we speak. One half of the show, Angel City Chicks, I give you the one, the only Amanda the Panda Philemon.
That's right. You've got Pragmatic Panda filling in for Tiki Tim today. Going to break down all the news, notes, and happenings that have happened in soccer land. I cannot wait to do this with you, Philly. So we have a lot of content to cover. So I don't know about you, but we should probably get started on this. But first, everybody, go follow Soccer in 60 on Instagram and YouTube, and make sure you're following and subscribe so you get all of the notifications, because you don't want to miss 1 minute of this show.
All right, so let's get going. LAFC took on the Seattle Sounders this past weekend. A preview of the upcoming Open Cup semifinals, which are going to take place on Tuesday, August 27th at Starfire Stadium in Tukwila. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. Washington at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time. 16th overall regular season meeting between LAFC and Seattle. The Black and Gold are the team that's been really doing it. 8-3-4 in this record going into the match on Saturday. And the first time that LAFC will be going back to Lumen Field since they beat the Seattle Sounders in the Western Conference semifinal last November 26th. We all know how the remainder of that season would go. LAFC would go on to represent the Western Conference in the MLS Cup final, but would lose to the Columbus Crew. But we won't talk about that. Folks, it's been some time since the Seattle Sounders had beaten LAFC. We'd have to go back to May 2021, the last time a Sounders team beat LAFC, which is kind of wild. So let's get into this game, and a wild one it would be. LAFC would be without Timothy Tillman and without Kike Oliveras. Both of them sustained knocks, as you'd say, in their previous game. Now, we would see the first bit of action occur 12 minutes into the game, where there was a frame so close for Nathan Ordaz to score. Edward Atuesta would connect with Omar Campos. He gets through Seattle Sounders Joao Matinho, a ball through into Nathan Ordaz, and you got a human pile on top of it. Supposedly, Seattle's Nuhu got a handball during the play. Referee Alan Chapman would go to VAR. No question that it was a handball. Nuhu got his right hand on it. Correct call was to be made. And then Denis Bouanga was about to fry Seattle keeper Stephen Fry. Lining up from 11 meters or 12 yards, whichever unit of measure you like to utilize, Denis Bouanga scores the first goal of the game. Perfect 7-7 from that position this season. 15th for the year. Watch out, Chicho Arango. Denny's coming back for that golden boot. We'd go forward into the 26th minute, where LAFC would find another goal, this time off of a free kick by Edward Atuesta. Ball gets inside the 18, gets headed out, and an unbelievable goal. Matty Bogusz, what a strike. His 13th goal of the year to go along with 6 assists. Que golazo, mi amigo. And as Taylor Twellman said on the broadcast, Matty Bogusz having a phenomenal season, playing in a position that is not even his natural spot. LAFC goes into the locker room up 2-0 at halftime. Huge, especially going into hostile territories like Lumen Field, a position in which a lot of clubs don't necessarily succeed. Now, going into the second half, Seattle would obviously start coming in. Brian Schmetzer would try to alter his lineup a little bit, but They would not get any luckier. 74th minute, another goal. Then he scores his second goal of the game. What a proper pass. Sergei Palencia would get his hockey dime on there. Two defenders closing in on him. Denny Bouanga scores 16th of the season right now, one behind Golden Boot leader Chicho Arango. And believe it or not, that was the first shot that LAFC had in the second half. First real threat from Seattle will come through in the 84th minute. Nothing into fruition. 5 minutes of stoppage was very interesting as Seattle was really testing Hugo Lloris, but Hugo Lloris was there making a couple of great saves, and that would be the ball game, folks. LAFC would win. Of the for Hugo Lloris, LAFC withstood a barrage of shot attempts, not necessarily so much on target, by the Seattle Sounders. The Black and Gold are now 6-0-2 in their last 8 meetings with Seattle in all competitions. Now, keep in mind, these two teams would face each other once again in the end of August, August 27th, for the U.S. Open Cup semifinals. That'll be an interesting scenario. LAFC now 47 points on the season, currently fourth in the race for the Supporters Shield behind Inter Miami, LA Galaxy, and FC Cincinnati. The interesting statistic that I will leave you with here is that LAFC is 5-0-1 in their last 6 MLS road games. That is one more road win than they recorded in all of 2023. That's wild. LAFC's next match is going to be tomorrow on Friday at 8 p.m. at BMO Stadium. It's the League's Cup that's going to be starting, and they are going to welcome Liga MX side Xolos de Tijuana. What is the League's Cup, you may ask? Well, in this current version of it, you have all the teams from Liga MX competing against all the teams in Major League Soccer. The winner in Liga MX of the Clausura last year was Club America. The winner of the MLS Cup last season, the Columbus Crew. They do not compete until the knockout phase. This tournament's going to take place July 26th, and it's going to go all the way to August 25th. And here's the incentive for the teams competing. Your 2 finalists plus the third place team get to qualify for next year's CONCACAF Champions Cup, which, as we know, the most important tournament in this region. Last year, we saw Inter Miami beat Nashville in a shootout 10-9 as Inter Messi, the Inter Flamingos themselves, or we call them Ibises down in Miami, held up the first real League's Cup. Now, LAFC last season, they didn't have to deal with the group stages because there's group stages to start things off before we get to the knockout rounds. They advanced right away. First opponent they squared up against was Juarez, which they scored a touchdown on. 7-1 was the final in that game. They would move on to the round of 16 where they would beat Real Salt Lake by a score of 4-0. Where it gets a little eerie for LAFC is on August the 11th. At the Rose Bowl, they take on Monterrey, lovingly known as Rayados. At the Rose Bowl, they were leading 2-0 going in to halftime. They ended up losing 3-2 when all was said and done. So once again, that match is going to be July 26th. Then July 30th, they're going to be competing against the Vancouver Whitecaps, which seems like 100th time they're facing the Vancouver Whitecaps in the past couple of seasons. I feel like everywhere you turn and look on LAFC's tournament schedule, there's always the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, football outlet FTBL, which if you go on their social media page, they garner quite a bunch of attention. They put their favorites for the League's Cup. They put Miami as the favorite, 38% chance of winning. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. Messi's hurt. Suarez is hurt. We don't know. Club America would be the second team at 32%, followed by Tigres, then LAFC with an 8% chance of winning, Rayados at 5%, and Cruz Azul at 3%. So only 2 MLS teams recognized in this. So we should be relatively thrilled about that, I suppose. But I do think that the percentages for Inter Miami, relatively high. Now, this is going to be the first time that LAFC takes on Xolos. They are managed by Juan Carlos Osorio. This is his first season. For you Club America fans out there, you might remember Piojo Miguel Herrera. He got fired last season. It would have been because Xolos just did not have a good campaign. It would have been fun to see him because for LAFC fans that remember, he and assistant coach Ante Razov got into it a couple of years ago. It would have been fun to see both of these two gentlemen exchange pleasantries at BMO Stadium. Alas, that would not be the case. For those of you who don't know much about Xolos, they're a club that has a little bit of history, having been established January 14th in the year 2007. They are the closest Liga MX team to the United States, arguably, and they play in Estadio Caliente, a very awesome venue, a venue that has a casino in it, by the way. The club's badge, and I totally dig this, is a hairless Xolos, so to speak. His name is Hermoso, and he was the dog of the owner, which that's the badge for Xolos. They do have some success within the last decade or so. They won the Apertura in Liga MX in 2012. So this will be an interesting scenario. And we get to be reunited against a couple of familiar MLS foes. Of course, I'm talking about Joe Corona. He spent time with the LA Galaxy, and he's number 5 all-time on Xolos' appearance list with 180. We're going to see Emmanuel Reynoso. If y'all remember him, he played at Minnesota United. He had a very interesting exit, if you will, out of Major League Soccer before heading on over to Xolos and Liga MX. And of course, Efren Alvarez, the 16-year-old that worked his way through the LA Galaxy Academy, he will be there as well. Now, the Apertura just started in Liga MX, so Xolos doesn't exactly have a lot of games to go by and look with this new coaching regime. In the 4 games that they've played in, they've gone 2-1-1. So this is a team that has a brand new coach, a brand new style, going up against a very well put together team in that of LAFC. So it'll be interesting. The game will be tomorrow, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and tickets are still available if you're in the LA area. And that concludes your LAFC recap. Panda, let's talk about the LA Galaxy, how they fared, and their Leagues Cup preview.
All right, let's get into it because, well, you know, the LA Galaxy have been super hot this season and have really been putting up some convincing wins, and they were going to have a tall task ahead of them against the Portland Timbers. Obviously, a very familiar Western Conference rival for them as well. And this is going to be the 37th meeting across all competitions between the Galaxy and the Portland Timbers. LA leads this all-time series with 14 wins, 13 draws, and 9 losses. And not to mention, LA is unbeaten in its last 6 regular season matches played against the Timbers. This dates all the way back to July 30th, 2021. So lots of near chances for both sides to start out this matchup. You knew they were both going to come out pretty hot and heavy. And, well, about 36 minutes into the match, you're going to see lots of great saves by both keepers on both ends to really keep this at a stalemate. But that was not going to last for much longer because in the 38th minute, Galaxy is going to open up the scoring with a goal by, well, I'm going to say these names a lot, and you guys have said them a lot on this show already. We've got the Killer Peas showing up in this first goal. We've got Puig from midfield to Paintsill, who found Peck for the first goal of this game, putting Galaxy up 1-0. Just a beautiful little run of play that just puts their exquisite passing on display for everybody to see, and, you know, able to hold himself onside and, you know, just dish that ball out to Peck. And those 3 guys are having a heck of a season. Now, Portland is going to nearly hit the equalizer in stoppage as Morera, he found Evander, but unfortunately his shot missed to the left. And that's kind of how that first half happened. Galaxy's going to go into the locker room up a goal at home, and a good place for them to sit, because if you know anything about the LA Galaxy, you know the second half is really where they have had a tendency to shine, and this was not going to be any different this game. This is where all the action is actually going to occur, and it's going to occur for both teams. So we've got a whole nother game ahead of us. It's going to start out pretty fast and furious. Galaxy, I don't know what they said at the half, but 3 minutes out of the half, we're going to see them double their lead. Paintsill going to find Puig right outside the box, and his shot hangs low and to the bottom left corner for the second goal of the game. And one thing I wanted to bring up and talk about was Puig's goal celebration. He took off his boot and he held it to his ear and like he was making a phone call. And I don't know, I just want to know, who do you think he called? Wrong answers only, please. Let us know if you're watching this where you can comment, because I need to know who he was calling in that celebration. So now we've got the Galaxy up 2-0, and we're going to see J-Mac coming up big with some stops in the 51st minute. He's going to get a great stop on Jonathan Rodriguez, or how we're all going to refer to him as a Cabecita. But guess what? That was not going to be the last time we hear from him, because just a minute later, we're going to see a goal from Portland. They're going to cut into that lead, and it's going to be from Cabecita himself, from Evander. He kept it low, hit it wide right. Nothing that J-Mac could do on that. So it's 2-1. We've got a game, right? Well, we've got a game at least for the next 6 minutes, because, well, Galaxy is going to extend their lead in the 58th minute. Diego Fagundes is going to find Joseph Paintsil. I swear there are P's involved in every play of this matchup. He's going to score a goal. He's going to be sandwiched in between two defenders. Brilliant goal. Just such conviction with hitting that. And yeah, all the killer P's score in this game. And you know what? That is what makes this team just so dangerous. There are three threats you have to try and defend, and they are so good at moving the ball around. You don't know where to go. Your head has to be on a swivel if you want to keep this game close. Now, speaking of close, Evander in the 68th minute, he's going to come real close to cutting into that lead. And, well, just about 5 minutes later, Portland is going to do just that. It's going to be 2-3 by way of Santiago Moreno with a banger of a goal. He received his pass in the midfield and went charging into the box. What a goal. You think he's going to go right, but he's able to cut that ball straight up to the left. Again, nothing you can do on a goal that is just that beautiful. So you think you got a game. We've got a lot of time left, but not going to be the case, unfortunately. Paintsil thinks, at least, because in the 76th minute, he thought he had a brace, but he was way offside. I don't know if you saw the replay, but he definitely was in that offside position. So we still have some time left, but you know, we got J-Mac in between the goalposts there, and he's going to deny Cabecita for a second time. Listen, Portland had their chances. They were in this game. There was absolutely, no reason that they should have ever thought that they were out of this game, but it was not going to be enough time, because Galaxy is going to pull out this win at home 3-2 against Portland, and it's going to keep Galaxy up at the top of the Western Conference. And now they are right behind Miami in the race to the Supporter Shield. You've got Galaxy with 49 points. LAFC sitting right on their heels with 2 games in hand, though, with 47. So, this is going to be one of those seasons where I think we're all going to have our we're all going to be clutching our pearls until the end. So definitely want to keep your eye on, but such a great game for both of them. Some great goals to be highlighted, and definitely enjoyed watching this one. Now, speaking of the next game that we need to talk about, this is going to be what Philly alluded to earlier, and it was the Leagues Cup preview is what we're going to talk about. We told you what it's all about, and Galaxy is going to be going up against San Jose Earthquakes and Chivas de Guadalajara. This is going to be a real interesting bracket, and I'll get to that in just a minute, but the Galaxy are going to be coming into this looking for a much better showing in this tournament than last year's, because in 2023, well, unfortunately, Galaxy kind of came into this and just crashed and burned. What I mean by that is they fell 1-0 to Leon, and then they fell 2-1 to Vancouver in stoppage time by way of a game-winning goal by Brian White in the 90+1 minute. So this is a different team that we've got fielding in this tournament. So I think we're going to see a much different result. And we're going to get a Cali Clasico on July 31st against San Jose. And then on August 4th, we're going to see them go up against Chivas Guadalajara. Both of these matches are going to be intense because, well, you've got one bitter MLS rival in the Cali Clasico with San Jose, and then you've got the Liga MX Giants, Chivas de Guadalajara. They're going to face off against, for the first time, I believe, against Chicharito since leaving the LA Galaxy. So this is going to be a really interesting group to watch. We definitely should keep our eyes on it, but There's something I do want to talk about if I have time, and that is the fact that not everybody is actually very excited about this League's Cup. And I don't know if you've been keeping your eye on what's going on, but let me backtrack just for a second. We've talked a lot about the Open Cup and some of these matches, and well, due to time constraints and schedule congestion, they decided not to include everyone this year. And because of that, a lot of people are kind of upset that League's Cup is kind of taking the spotlight over something as historical and just so tenured like that of the Open Cup. And I don't know, I kind of want to ask your thoughts on this, Philly. I know you've got a lot of comments about everything, and this is probably something that you could chime in on, but what do you think about some of these teams saying they are going to boycott the League's Cup because either their team didn't make it into the Open Cup or they are just standing in solidarity for those that didn't get the chance to compete?
I mean, I understand exactly where they're coming from. Yet the U.S. Open Cup is the longest reigning tournament, one that's been dominated by Major League Soccer teams, of course. Everybody loves the Cinderella story, the cup set story. We've seen it time and time again. But fact of the matter is there hasn't been a non-MLS team to win the U.S. Open Cup since the Rochester Rhinos beat the Colorado Rapids back in the 90s. And so Don Garber's perspective on it is, well, we can't open up Mercedes-Benz Stadium to host a game with Atlanta United where they only have 1,400 fans. Any way you want to slice or dice it, the thing that came off as wrong is they talk about schedule congestion. This tournament's been around for a while. The League's Cup, not so much. I like the aspect I like from both is you get to learn about teams that you otherwise wouldn't see on a regular basis. In our case, for LAFC, we had a couple of USL teams that we got to see recently. Heck, New Mexico United came in and brought an amazing crowd, a group of people. So that was fun. The benefit, obviously, of winning the U.S. Open Cup is you get that spot in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Within the League's Cup, now the finalists, the first place and the second and the second place and third place get to go through. And I hate to sound like a jerk to the people that support U.S. Open Cup, but to me, it's a far more competitive match when you see a club like LAFC going up against a club like Monterrey, as opposed to seeing LAFC go up against a club like New Mexico United. Fact of the matter is, it's all about the competition, and in their case, earning the money. Any way you want to slice or dice it, this is a business, and so they want to put cheeks in seats. They want to make money, and you and I have been privy to a lot of U.S. Open Cup games at both Dignity Health Sports Park and BMO Stadium. Those stadiums don't really get filled for those U.S. Open Cup games, but we've seen quite a bit for League's Cup. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, with that, I mean, League's Cup seems to draw a bigger crowd. I totally get that. It sucks for the Open Cup, though, I think a little bit, because there's nothing better than seeing, these little teams like fight and claw their way up and do it. I mean, I know it doesn't happen very often, but man, wouldn't you love to just see a USL team come out and win that and know that they faced, the best of the best at the end of it? And it's unfortunate that everybody doesn't get a chance to vie for that. And, a team like Galaxy, I think I see their frustration because they've got a team this year that would be a very strong contender for something like the Open Cup. So I don't know. We're just going to have to see what everybody does, see if people show up and support their teams. I know I'm going to be supporting my team, but I would love to see a team like, Orange County Soccer Club, for instance. Wouldn't that be fun to see them win it all?
Yeah, no, it absolutely would. The Indy 11 are in the Final Four. So, hey, who knows? Maybe you have a USL team go through and make that strong argument as to why the U.S. Open Cup is a lot of fun. I enjoy it, but to have multiple tournaments, yes, I get it. It is congestive, but don't tell us that it's because of congestion of schedule, because we know flat out that's not the case. You're trying to make money with the Liga MX teams. I get it. That's the nature of things. All righty. With that being the case, let's transition on over into our conversation. This is a podcast brought to you by the Empire Strykers. So let's start talking about the Empire Strykers. Panda, we had a couple of big signings in the Inland Empire. The MASL MVP Renato Castillo, otherwise known as La Pantera Rosa, a.k.a. the Pink Panther. The league MVP, 32 goals, 18 assists. He's now a member of the Empire Strykers. And they got Clayson de Lima back, too.
Yeah, that's exciting, honestly. I mean, we did what we could and had a really good showing in goal with what we had last year. I think both of our goalkeepers did a phenomenal job. But I think Clayson is just on another level as well. And I think he's only going to add to what the Strikers really do need to be competitive. We saw what he could do, back in, when they were in the cup final for that and unfortunately lost. So I think he's got a lot of things that he's going to try to avenge coming back into this team.
Yep. And with that being said, we get to sit down with JP Dellacamera, the legendary JP Dellacamera, as he talks to us a little bit about the Empire Strykers and Angel City, which we'll transition to right after this interview with JP Dellacamera. It's a pre-record. Let's sit down and listen to it. We've been guests on Soccer in 60. Today's interview might be the biggest one yet. On today's show, our guest has a list of broadcasting credits that is simply jaw-dropping. He's called indoor soccer, outdoor soccer, hockey, college sports, World Cups, Champions League, the list goes on and on. Known as the original voice of U.S. soccer, he is most famous for calling the 1999 Women's World Cup final in Pasadena and the UEFA Champions League final where Manchester United and David Beckham hoisted some silverware. You've no doubt heard his voice in the last Women's World Cup and recently in Copa America. He's been calling games in the WSL as of late, and he also presides as the president of communications and media in the Major Arena Soccer League. Folks, it is my honor and privilege to welcome the legendary JP Dellacamera. JP, welcome to Soccer in 60.
Philly, thanks for the great introduction. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Oh, I love it. Welcome. But before we get into some MASL and NWSL talk, our producer Gunnar tipped us off to something, which is that you were on the call for that legendary Wayne Rooney play for DC United, where the DC keeper is up for a Hail Mary attack. And, the other team is on a counter and Rooney wins the ball with a slide tackle, hits a perfect pass to Lucho Acosta for the 96-minute winner. And it kind of got us thinking, do you have any favorite moments that you were on the call for in your career that you can, that just kind of comes to your brain?
I've done so many goal calls, right, over the years, but for MLS, that's the one that I remember the most. And I can still see it. I can still see Wayne Rooney's eyes. I knew as he was coming back for that ball that he was going to win that ball. I didn't know what else was going to happen, but for sure, I saw the whites of his eyes. I can still see him now running towards me this way where our press box was. And it's the one goal. I did MLS for, I don't even know how many years, but a couple of decades. And that's the one goal that I have gone to the most to look back at to see how it was called. It kind of gave me chills. And there's, I don't know how many goals I've called, hundreds, thousands, I have no idea. But for MLS, that's the one that I remember the most. A couple of Philadelphia Union calls where they won big in playoffs. I can remember a big Jacob Glesnes goal that kept getting replayed in Philadelphia. But that Rooney one was very special. I can still remember it.
I think a lot of DC United fans would remember that one as well. That pretty much summed up his entire career in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, that was a great night. I mean, nobody saw the ending. I didn't know how he even made that play. I knew he was going to win the ball, but to win the ball, to look up in that split second, find Acosta, not only find him, but perfectly find him that far away, and then, Acosta does the rest, and the rest is history. Probably one of the most famous goals, I would think, in DC United's history.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question about that. Obviously, so many different things we could talk to you about, but seeing that we're an Empire Strykers show, we should probably stick to asking you some questions about the team. So Jeff Burham and Jimmy Nordberg and everybody at Empire has they made a couple of huge signings in the past couple of years, in the likes of Marco Fabian. They recently signed the MASL MVP, La Pantera Rosa, the Pink Panther, Genaro Castillo. He's going to be on the same turf with Fabian, with Justin Stinson. Like, what do you think? How do you think those three players are going to get together, and will they gel for the Empire Strykers?
It's a great question. I like what Empire has done. I think, Jeff is willing to spend the money. Obviously, these guys didn't come cheap by MASL standards. I thought that, the signing of Fabian was sort of like a Landon Donovan signing for MASL. I thought fantastic in a couple of different languages. Marco translated well to our English-speaking audience as well as our Spanish-speaking audience. But I thought the one thing that was missing last year were the pieces around him. I think when you have a player like a Marco Fabian, you build around him, and for whatever reason, those pieces didn't seem to fit together. I'd be surprised if Castillo and Fabian do not form like the best duo in our league. And I think Empire will probably make more changes. I think getting De Lima back was huge. They felt like he was their number one goalkeeper for a while. I think that, no disrespect to the goalkeepers you had last year, but De Lima is an upgrade. And so if you can improve yourselves defensively, which you do with the goalkeeper, and you bring in a player like Castillo, who could also make other players better, then you should be on your way to the playoffs.
We sure hope so. It's been a couple of years since the Strikers / Ontario Fury were in the playoffs. You bring up Clayson De Lima. We'll argue that had he not gotten that concussion, Empire, back then Ontario, could have won and beaten the San Diego Sockers in that game. But that's history. Obviously, we're focusing forward. We already addressed building players around Marco. In front of him as well with Castillo. Behind him with De Lima as well. Defensively, the Strikers could use an upgrade, and there are plenty of free agents out there. We've just seen Guerrero Pino sign with the Kansas City Comets. With the exception of another defensive piece, could they make a bigger run, though, with what they currently have right now?
Well, I think, as good as Fabian was, right, he couldn't carry them to the playoffs. I mean, he had an amazing year. So I think that just tells you indoor soccer, probably like hockey in a sense that, the team building, team bonding, the chemistry, all of that stuff. I just felt like Empire was a collection of players that didn't seem to gel. They never had that one big moment, never was able to get that momentum. I think that they've addressed some of it, and it's early, right? They've made 2 major signings, and we're months away from the start of the regular season. And knowing Jeff Burham, I do believe they're going to go after more players and maybe some bigger names as well. And for me, though, the key has to be pieces that fit with Marco. Marco's at the head of that, and I think you need other pieces around him that can make a difference, because look at what Fabian did last year, and teams were keying on him. They knew how dangerous he was. Now this year, he's no longer a mystery to them. And now if you've got Castillo and others coming in, who do you mark? Who do you take out of the game? So a year, once he knows the league as well.
Yeah, I love talking about MASL, but hey, this isn't just an Empire Strikers show. We do have some other things I want to talk to you about, and one of those is that of Angel City. Now, I'm going to back up just a little bit and talk about the broader game and women's soccer in general. You've been calling this for a number of years, and the landscape has changed drastically, even in just the last 5 years. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you've seen from your vantage point as a broadcaster when it comes to women's soccer here in the U.S.?
Well, we now have a thriving league with 14 teams, and within 2 years they'll have 16 teams. And I think the sky is the limit for this league. We just saw where Bob Iger and Willow Bay have announced the plans to purchase the team for $250 million. So in one swoop like that, Angel City has become the biggest name in women's soccer. I mean, just by that evaluation or valuation. And they're only 2 years into this, right? This is their 3rd year, and they haven't won anything yet. They made the playoffs once, but they haven't won anything yet. And yet we're talking about Angel City. So I think that sets the bar higher now for new expansion teams that are going to be coming in. We know Boston's in 2026. There'll be another team coming in. I'm not sure who that's going to be, but I think they'll announce that probably before the end of this year. But, well done by Angel City to start off as an expansion team in a major market where in previous leagues, the LA market, didn't work. California didn't work in previous leagues. This time you've got Angel City, you've got San Diego, and now in Northern California, you've got Bay FC, and they all seem to be doing very well at the box office and trying to get things right on the field as well.
Yeah, no doubt. California has definitely let the league know that we belong here. Very exciting. Now, unfortunately, ACFC, the product on the pitch hasn't quite matched the product off the pitch. But I guess from your vantage point as well, what do you think it is that ACFC needs to do in order to have talks about playoffs this season? We've talked a lot about them doing this whole youth movement, a lot of that, and they haven't really replaced a lot of players, a lot of veteran names that were on our team. What do you think the key piece is to us to be able to talk about playoffs here in the next month or so?
Well, for Angel City, it'd be great if they could ever get the Kristen Press that we all know back on the field. I mean, that's a game-changing player. We're expecting to see her sometime in this Summer Cup, the games that are being played now between NWSL and Liga MX. But, who knows how long it will take for Press to get back into the flow of things. I do think, having watched this team, that they are missing, I'm going to say, 3 players. When we spoke to Becky Tweed, their head coach, on a recent program, she had talked about getting a number 6. And I think that that's what they're going to be definitely looking for if they haven't already captured that player, just not announced during the upcoming window. So she had talked about getting a number 6. For me, they could use a 10, and they definitely could use a 9. I think those are the 3 pieces that are missing. I think, goalkeeping is fine. Sarah Gordon is a rock back there defensively. They've got the young players like the Thompson sisters that are very good. Emsley, for me, is a fantastic player. Sydney Leroux, I think she's 34, maybe 35, playing like she's 25. They've got some good pieces there. I just think that that's the missing part. A 9 and a 10. The young players, Fuller, amazing. 17 years of age. I mean, you can't teach that. I mean, she showed me something last week where she made some moves where I thought, wow, I didn't see that one coming. So they've got some nice pieces, young, medium age, and older. But I think they're not 3 players away from the playoffs. I think they're 3 players away from being a real contender to go far.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think me and Nina talk about this a lot on our podcast about, what pieces are we missing? Where is it, we hear coaching, is it the players, is it the strategy? So we just really want them to all get together and hopefully make a good run, at least be competitive, because this is a competitive group of girls. And another thing that we contemplate is the fact that in years past, the table has always been so tight. Up into playoffs, you never knew who was going to be up there at the top. And for some reason this year, we have some real dominant teams at the top. Do you have any explanation for why you think there is such a dominant presence at the top and a discrepancy between the top and the bottom in this season?
I think that there were a lot of surprises. When we looked at the standings recently, we noticed that at one point, I think it was like the top 4 teams. None of them were in the playoffs last year, right? And you still have Kansas City and Orlando, who are right there as 1-2 or 2-1. They've been alternating depending on who played last. But to me, those are the 2 best teams. Yeah. Then I think that there is a gap after that. I don't think anyone saw Kansas City being this good this early. Same with Orlando. By the same token, I don't think anyone saw San Diego maybe regressing. Bay FC, we weren't sure about. They signed a lot of big-time players. Some of them have worked out so far. Some of them are still a work in progress, but they've been, up and down. Chicago's better because they have Mal Swanson. But for me, the 2 top teams, I think, are going to be the 2 top teams when the dust settles at the end of the year. Not saying that they'll win the title because you don't know what happens in the playoffs, but I think regular season, I think the champion is either going to be Kansas City or Orlando.
Great interview we had with JP Dellacamera. As a podcaster and sports broadcaster myself, it's very humbling getting to talk to the man. We hear his voice all the time. The fact that we got to see and hear, pretty darn cool stuff. But since we're on the topic of Angel City had a game this past weekend against Club America. Panda, why don't you walk us through that real quick? Panda, I think you're on mute.
Yeah,
there
I
you
know.
go.
I'm on mute. Don't worry. I got this. Not my first time, but yeah, let's get in Angel City because they had an exciting game that happened last Friday, and we had alluded to it on our previous shows where we had talked about the NWSL Liga MX Summer Cup tournament, first of its kind, replacing the Challenge Cup that they've had for the last few years, and just a real exciting matchup. It happened out in Fullerton at Titan Stadium. That's where ACFC was able to kick off their inaugural career in the NWSL. So let's just get into it because honestly, this was a really fun one to go back and watch because we saw a lot of really positive things from this team. And I want to start out first with just saying the lineups. Those are very interesting because we got Spencer, Bright, and Thompson up top. But I'm not talking about Alyssa Thompson. I'm talking about Giselle Thompson up top playing in those forward positions. And they were a lot of fun. We're going to see a lot of movement from them in the early parts of the game. In the first, I would say 20 minutes of this matchup against Club America Femenil, we saw a lot of back and forth. We saw us with a few opportunities. We also saw America answering with some attempts as well. Angelina Anderson, she was the goalkeeper for this matchup, and she was able to make some phenomenal saves and kept Angel City in this game from start to finish. It was going to be, though, in that 29th minute when we are going to see Angel City open up their scoring account. Merritt Mathias is going to play a short diagonal pass out of pressure to Kennedy Fuller just inside the penalty arc. Fuller took a touch, controlled the ball, turned, unleashed a right-footed effort, curled past Panos into the back of the net, putting Angel City up 1-0. And then we're going to see a few more chances. We are going to see Club America keep pushing, though. Scarlett Camberos, former ACFC player, she's going to have some opportunities there in the 75th minute, but unfortunately unable to connect to any of her teammates. And then Angel City is going to come out and double their lead in the 89th minute when midfielder Madison Hammond poked the ball away from defenders to the feet of Sydney Leroux at the top of the 18, where Leroux was able to fire off a left-footed shot that Panos had no chance of stopping, being able to double their lead 2-0 going into stoppage time. But unfortunately, Club America is going to pull one back in stoppage time when forward Maya Zuazua sent in a free kick to the edge of the 6-yard box, and forward Kiana Palacios able to jump, connect with that ball for a looping header that placed it just under the crossbar past Anderson. And yeah, she nothing she could do on that. It was just a perfectly placed ball, but thankfully not enough stoppage time left in this matchup for them to make any kind of comeback and tie it up. I did learn that in this matchup, if there is a tie, that they do go to penalty kicks because there are no ties in this group type stage of matchup. So keep your eye on that. Angel City able to pull out the win, though, 2-1. Pretty even on all the stats. 10 shots to their 7 and 5 shots on target to their 4. Everything else pretty much even. A really great game for Angel City. One to walk away and hopefully give them some confidence because, well, they're going to need it because our next matchup is going to be another Summer Cup match, and it's going to be happening tomorrow night, Friday, 7:30 against Bay FC up at PayPal Park up there in San Jose. So going to be a lot of fun because, well, this is going to mark the third time Angel City has played the 2024 expansion side in that of Bay FC. And, well, 2 of their regular season matchups with their rival to the north, they fell 0-1 both times. Unfortunate for Angel City, but hey, Bay FC lost their tournament opener. Road trip to San Diego saw them losing 1-3 with defender Kennedy Wesley, forward Maria Sanchez, and forward Amira Ali secured the win for the Wave, with defender Madeline Moreau notching the only goal for Bay. So right now in that little group of the Wave, Bay FC, Club America, and Angel City, we see Angel City and San Diego Wave at the top. So huge game for Angel City coming up in Bay FC. Definitely need a win because San Diego's not going to be an easy matchup later in August. But that's all I got for Angel City. A lot of fun stuff. Glad we could put a win on the board for this tournament. Christian?
Congratulations. You went from pragmatic panda to push the unmute button panda. I'm sorry, I had to say something. It was just too good to not say something. I better transition before she mutes me. Folks, let's transition on over into Orange County Soccer Club. I know we said Tiki Tim Kolats was 30,000 feet above us right now in an airplane, but because of the beauty of recording and editing, Tim did one. So let's hear about how Orange County Soccer Club fared this past weekend against San Antonio FC.
Hey guys, thanks for sending it over to me. We're going to talk about Orange County SC now, and we're going to talk about a little bit about the San Antonio group coming in over this past weekend. Orange County took care of those guys, but before we get to that game, let's talk about the best news of the week for Orange County. They have retained Coach Paul Hardiman, no longer on an interim basis, but on a full head coaching for the rest of the season. I think this is a great move for Orange County because it keeps that unity that they've been looking for all season. And after Coach Carlson has gone off to Denmark, having Coach Hardiman the rest of the season is going to be really, really good. They're going to keep the consistency of this 4-1-4-1 formation that they've been using the past 3-4 games. And the players are starting to really listen to what Hardiman has got to say because of the way they played, especially the past 3 games from Memphis. And then also this last game against San Antonio, the format that they're using has just been really great. So let's hop into the game just for a couple of minutes. You know, the first half, while entertaining, produced no goals. And we went into the half at 0-0, but Orange County came out firing. And with Captain Marcus Nakim becoming a stalwart on the team now and really putting together a couple of really, really solid games, he gets the party started early in the second half, and on a corner kick, a headed ball that was on a low, short corner came right to Nakim. Being at the right place at the right time really helps out because Nakim just got his body in the way, put his thigh on the ball, and it's in the back of the net for a 1-0 Orange County lead. This is part of the game plan for Orange County, getting guys in the box, putting in 5 or 6 players in there, and somebody getting a body, getting a head, getting a thigh on the ball to put the Orange County boys up 1-0. Tomas Gomez, who is making his season debut for Orange County, has played great the entire game and keeps the game tied on 3 or 4 different occasions, especially in the second half, just by being in good position and the Orange County boys really taking care of their goalkeeper, who was looking very, very strong the entire game. The insurance marker comes late as Owen Lamb, who's playing more of this wingback position again. And it didn't work out a few games ago, you know, when they were playing in Loudountown and things like that. But in this particular game, Owen Lamb makes an amazing give and go. He starts this at about 30 yards out, puts in a nice pass to the top of the 18, and just sprints full speed to the top of the box, gets the ball laid back off of him, makes a great move on the defense, and puts in a left-footed shot that is just solid. And we all know they're pros, right? But the reality is this, that when you're seeing the pros using both their left and their right foot on a consistent basis, this is really what's breeding the success for this team. You've got guys that are not dealing with just being able to use their right foot, not just being able to use the left foot. You see this in some of even the higher level matches where they're just going in and they can only use one foot, and it's just miserable. But a guy like Owen Lamb being able to use both feet on a consistent basis is great. The urgency in this game, we've watched this a few different times with some of the other teams that we cover. There's just not a sense of urgency all the time, right? And in this game, the urgency was great. Ethan Zubak playing that high 9, Bryce Jameson playing the far right wing in this 4-1-4-1 formation really worked well because Zubak and Jameson were able to use their speed, get on the defense very quickly, and force San Antonio into some mistakes that that they otherwise wouldn't be making if they were just allowed to lollygag up the field. So game ends 2-0. Hardeman's, got these guys working hard, and this puts the team in a great position going into the regular season, end of the regular season. Up next this Saturday, the 27th at 4:30 local time, the Orange County boys are on the road against the Birmingham Legion FC. Birmingham comes into this game 1-1-1 in their last 3 games, and they sit 5th in the East with an 8-5-8 record at 28 points. The Orange County boys are right behind them as far as points, but they sit 7th in the West. And a couple of the key things to be looking out for this game is that Birmingham doesn't have a true leader when it comes to scoring goals on their offensive side. They got 3 guys that are tied with 3 goals apiece for their team leading goals. However, one of the guys leading in goals also leads in assists. And when Enzo Martinez gets the ball, he's able to do some things for Birmingham. And that's allowed him to get up to these 6 points between three goals and 3 assists. So the Orange County boys are going to have to look out for him. However, Birmingham's only 3-5-1 at home. So unlike most of the teams, like even Orange County, and you look at like the Galaxy, who are undefeated at home, you're looking at a team that's 3-5-1. So they're susceptible to getting beat at home. Orange County to continue to play strong, and they're going to come into this game reeling and rocking, especially now that they know that Hardeman's going to be around the rest of the season. Chada's going to need to control that midfield, continue to control that midfield. And if they do, they have a very strong chance against Birmingham. And here's a great stat that nobody's even looking at. On shots on goal, Orange County boys are converting in an 18% rate. So 1 out of 5 shots that they're putting on frame are getting in the back of the net. That's going to be the key to this game. Hey, back to you guys. Have a great day.
Appreciate it, Tim. Always doing a phenomenal job with Orange County Soccer Club. Big shout out to the captain, Marcus Nakim, again for scoring his first goal of the season. And by the way, sweet kits for OCSC. Their swag is fire, no question. Then again, they did win me over with that collaboration they did with Social Distortion. All right, let's move on over to our miscellaneous segment. It just happened recently, the MLS All-Star Game. We had the skills competition on Tuesday. We had the All-Star Game yesterday. This was the 3rd edition of the MLS All-Stars versus Liga MX. The first one was back in 2021 in Los Angeles at Banc of California Stadium. MLS won in the penalty shootout. 2022, MLS won 2-1 at St. Paul, Minnesota. It wouldn't be that successful for MLS, though, in Columbus. But Panda, skills contest, arguably, not even arguably, my favorite part of the MLS All-Star Game. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. I love seeing these types of skills on display because, well, one, I cannot do even a little fraction of what they can do with the ball, and seeing what they can do and just the precision and accuracy that they have. It's so much fun. And the way it goes, you have the shooting challenge, the touch challenge, the cross and volley, the passing challenge, and the crossbar challenge. And the winner of each kind of earns a point, I guess you could say. And well, Liga MX ended up winning the skills contest 3-2. They took the shooting challenge, they took the cross and volley, and they took the crossbar challenge. But one thing we do need to point out is the fact that the passing challenge, which was won by MLS, was won pretty much single-handedly by Ricky Puig, because he set the record for the passing challenge, winning it in only 22 seconds. It was so impressive, and honestly not actually that surprising either. We have seen his skill sets on full display in matches. It's exactly what he does. He does it so well. He knows where to put the ball. He does it just, he does it pragmatically. But it's fantastic. And it's just so much fun to watch. I mean, I would love to go out there and just try some of these things. I mean, I would make an absolute fool of myself, but it was a lot of fun. And I think another thing, which I think you like to really watch, is something that's kind of new. It's called the Goalie Wars. Did we talk about that yet?
No, Goalie Wars is a lot of fun. You got the keepers from MLS Next Pro going at it, and Charlotte FC's MLS Next Pro team won back-to-back. It was so much fun. Yeah, I love the skills competition. Same with like baseball. Same with baseball, loving the home run derby. Same with basketball, loving the 3-point challenge and the dunk contest. It's all fun and games. But let's actually talk about the game itself. Between LAFC and the LA Galaxy, they sent 4 players on over to Columbus. LAFC had Denny Bouanga and Hugo Lloris. The Galaxy had Ricky Puig and Gabriel Peck. And to be completely honest with you, the only one of those 4 that really had an impact on the game and on the weekend, not really the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, was Ricky Puig. He set the record in the passing challenge that you mentioned, and he almost had a goal in the game. This was a matchup dominated by Liga MX. They would score the first goal in the 16th minute. Herman Berterame scored. A minute later, though, in front of the hometown, Cucho had an unbelievable equalizer, but then much to the dismay of Crew fans, Pachuca's Idrissi put them up 2-1. Second half, it would be all Liga MX as Juan Bruneta of Tigres gets the third. Maxi Meza of Monterrey scores. That would be how that rolls out. Again, a lot of fun. I love the rendition of Liga MX All-Stars versus MLS All-Stars, but with the addition of San Diego, I think we need to have an East versus West. What do you think?
I like the East versus West idea. I think it's a lot of fun. This is fun too. I think it allows people to see some of their favorite players from Liga MX if they don't get the chance to go down there. So that's a lot of fun for them. But East versus West would be cool. But again, I'm sure people would have a problem with that. But what I do like, what I wanted to mention was, did you see they asked Ricky Puig the player he would most like to play with the most?
No, well, who was it?
He said Denny Bouanga.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Can you see it? Look at us all coming together like a big happy family. Wouldn't that be amazing? Because he would be a great addition to any team. And could you imagine him dishing off some dimes to Denny?
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Folks, we're running out of time here, so I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Soccer in 60 on behalf of myself, Philly, and Pragmatic Panda. Don't forget to follow us on your podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it. If you listen to a podcast on it, we're in it, Soccer in 60. Follow us on Instagram, Empire Strykers on YouTube, and we'll see you next week for another one of your favorite Thursday shows. Have a good one.